Welcome to Let's Be Perfectly Queer.
A queer podcast creating space to talk about all things queer.
My name is Archie.
And I'm Katie.
And we are your hosts.
Questions of how you identify, seeking answers to clarify. Whether you're queen
or somewhere in between, let's be perfectly queer.
And we're back.
And today we're talking about something called Casa Susanna.
Oh, such a good episode.
Yeah, so that's what today's main episode is. Before we get into that, just some quick stuff. It has been a big month and, you know, AFL finals, it's big here in Australia. So for those who are listening around the world, AFL is our Australian Football League. It is our national sport.
Yeah.
And
to unpack, it's not soccer, it's not rugby, it's a different sport.
Yeah, so I was basically talking to someone online. It's closer to Gaelic, but it's still
Gaelic
very
football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still very, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because someone was like, is it closer to rugby or to American football? And I was like, neither.
Yeah, not at all. Look at those rules, forget them, and get a smaller ball.
Yeah, basically the football almost represents a gridiron ball, and a rugby ball in the size and the shape, but it's a different material.
It's even smaller. It's smaller than a rugby ball.
Yeah.
Like rugby balls are bigger and they're very
No, I wasn't a rugby player.
Oh, okay.
Well, I played touch. Well, no, I did play rugby in high school and I dislocated my finger. But anyway.
Yeah, their balls are bloody hard. It hurts.
Oh, no, it was on someone and not on the person. But anyway, I went to go tackle them and my finger went... Tink.
Tackled like that?
Yeah, with my hands going... But it was this little finger. This little finger. It never fully went back. Anyway, for those who have been listening, it has been all over the news that Isaac Rankin, and I think he's from Adelaide Crows, said a homophobic slur to, I believe it was a Collingwood player.
Yeah.
There's many arguments about exactly what was said, but there are inklings of what words were said, and we're not going to say it. There's been a lot of slack towards the AFL at the moment because of the way they handled the situation, and they said something about, every time there is a slur that the weeks would increment. So Isaac should have got 5 weeks, and I think it came down to 3 or 4, and which really doesn't set a precedence when they said they wanted to set a precedence.
Wow.
AFL has been really known for its misogyny, its masculinity, and it is a sport that a lot of young men in Australia grow up watching and idolising these players. And recently, Mitch Brown, a former West Coast Eagles player, is the first AFL player ever, past or present, to come out as bisexual.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Which is amazing, yes. Statistically impossible.
Yeah.
And really sad, because it means that, depending on when in their journey they realised that they were bisexual completely, but it just shows that while they were playing footy, it either wasn't a safe space or they could not fathom that part of themselves while they were in that profession.
Yeah, and so a lot of people have said, amazing, well done. Congratulations, Mitch Brown. And West Coast Eagles is a team that I support. They've been really bad this year, but that is a team that I support. And so that's really awesome that, someone from the West Coast Eagles, former player, has come out after all of this. Right now when it's hot topic, has been brave enough to say, actually, I am a bisexual man. He was saying in interviews with, I think it's the Daily Oz, that... he was questioning his sexuality when he was playing AFL. And you can't, it's not a safe place. And when in 129 years, no male player before Mitch Brown has come out publicly.
Yeah.
129 years. And it's one of the only sports in Australia where you do not have an out, proud, gay or bisexual man playing right now.
And it's so sad because if you look... And this is not just football itself, because if you look at the female teams for football, which we do, which again, like all female sports, don't have as much support or funding or anything like that. But a lot of our female sports stars are queer.
Yeah.
And so it's not football itself, it's the people who are representing the male teams throughout Australia who have created this culture of we don't worry if people, we don't care if people put you down if you're queer. But then again, we were talking about the other day, is that they're not great with racist comments either, because even racist, sexist, any comments, even ageism actually, because I understand that there's a certain thing of he's past his prime, he can't do the same things that he's done previously. but it seems so much more derogatory in football. I feel like all the comments are so much more derogatory and it's their let's slide.
Yeah, it's been allowed to happen, and that's the thing. With the AFL, they've created a culture that has allowed this racist, homophobic, sexist language to be a part of the game.
Yeah.
And even reading all the comments about the Isaac Rankin, a lot of them are like, oh, but they're just words, it's part of the culture, it's sledging. And it's like, but no, like why is this allowed in the AFL? It shouldn't be.
It's not allowed anywhere else.
Yeah. You know, it's not allowed in your workplace. So why are you allowed to then do it here on a football field? And, you know, a lot of people are like, but it's sledging. It's a different category. But no, that's different. You're using words that target a minority
Yeah.
as a way to hurt other people or to, like, you know, get them off their game. And that's just not okay.
As well as like you were saying, in football, people grow up in Australia with having football.
Yeah.
As a kid, everyone watches it as they.
Yeah.
I didn't, which I was quite happy with. But anyway, not the point. I don't really care for it, but not the point. It's that you grow up with your families watching it and you see those football stars and they get paid big bucks and they get all the fame and they're the people who you want to be when you grow older.
Yeah.
And by having that person as a role model and that person also being a person who degrades minorities and uses those disgusting tactics to put others down, you're saying, oh yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
You're normalizing it because these guys they're public figures, right?
Yeah.
And young men and young boys emulate that and they copy the people they idolize.
And you wonder why we get this behaviour in high schools.
Oh, it's terrible in high schools.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that, you know, you see all this kind of stuff happen in the AFL with we're taking a hard stance, and then when they're given an opportunity to, they backpedal.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've played the card about Isaac Rankin's mental health. But what about the mental health of every young little boy watching football and hearing those words? I remember going to a few games when I was younger, and the language and the homophobia, the racism, it's just disgusting.
It is.
Yeah.
But also poor form for any player who's queer in football at the moment.
And that's why Mitch Brown doing that right now, it's so brave. With all the talk still about Isaac Rankin, about the homophobia, about what's allowed in the AFL, Mitch Brown has been exceptionally brave in stepping forward and being like, if I'm the first person to lead the step forward, he's hoping that will be the next generation to say, actually, so am I. Because you never see any of the men with their male partner at any of the awards.
No.
Because it's not, the culture's not allowed for it to be a safe place to bring your same-sex partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a disappointing thing.
Anyway, with that disappointment, let's get into today's lovely episode about Casa Susanna. On this episode, we're talking about Casa Susanna. Have you heard about this before?
No, never.
So just a quick trigger warning. In this episode, we mentioned some outdated terms in reference to resources and research that we found for this episode, and it might be upsetting to some listeners. Just a reminder to please take care when listening. So let's start with the basics. What exactly was Casa Susanna? Well, it was a house owned by Susanna Valenti and her wife, Marie Tonell. It was located in the Catskills, just outside New York City. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, this house became a secret haven for trans women and men who enjoyed cross-dressing. They were also often accompanied by their wives.
Oh, what a fabulous place.
So Casa Susanna was a place that men who enjoyed cross-dressing and trans women could be themselves, dress how they wanted, live as women, and just exist without fear. It was a safe place where people could explore their gender identity and expression, something they couldn't do in their everyday. So Valenti and Tonell opened their doors to people seeking a safe, private place where they could express their gender identity. At the time, this was incredibly important. Many of the people who visited the house were facing intense discrimination, both socially and legally, simply for expressing themselves. Casa Susanna offered a place where they could connect with others, live authentically, and support each other in a world that didn't understand or accept them.
I can imagine it just being a breath of fresh air in a very oppressive life.
100%.
And somewhere that you can feel safe and feel normal around your peers is so important.
Yeah, and right now it's a place that, with the current climate, it is still needed.
I feel like there's been a couple of movies about this.
Maybe.
It really rings a bell in my mind.
This was also at a time when being out could mean being locked up or worse. This place gave them a safe haven and the courage to live more openly in a world that didn't make it easy. As researcher Sophie Hackett noted, many of the individuals at Casa Susanna were trying to understand feelings that went against how they were raised as men in 1950s and 60s America, in a post-war American culture that promoted a very traditional view of family life, the suburban home with strict gender roles.
And it would have been quite difficult in that time because, I mean, apart from being in a society that told you that you were wrong, it's not like you could also explore those emotions with your partner because the ideas behind this were very taboo at the moment. So even being open with your partner, even if you had a really good relationship, they were less likely or would be incredibly unlikely to be supportive or understand that you feel different to what was classed as normal at the time.
Yeah.
Sad.
It seemed that Casa Susanna was lost in history until 2004, when a collection of photographs were discovered. So let's quickly talk about the photos. Pictures of the scene were rare as people were afraid they might be arrested or blackmailed if they got found out. So when photos were discovered, they were able to give some form of insight into what it was like for those who called Casa Susanna home. The photos were first found at a New York City flea market in 2004 by two art dealers, then later bought by the Art Gallery of Ontario in 2015. This group of 340 images is just a part of a much larger collection, some of which are now owned by artist Cindy Sherman.
Ooh.
These photographs also inspired a book called Casa Susanna, the story of the first trans network in the United States, 1959 to 1968. This publication brought the story of Casa Susanna to an even wider audience, and its impact can still be felt today. In recent years, we've seen documentaries, books, and even Broadway plays like Casa Valentina that were inspired by Casa Susanna's story. These photographs, taken so many years ago, have helped fuel a renewed conversation about gender expression, the history of trans rights, and how far the community has come. They also remind us of how important it is to preserve these kind of histories, especially when so many stories of trans people have been overlooked or forgotten. In recent years, these photos have gained interest from artists, researchers, and activists exploring the connection between queer identity, photography, and art. Other similar archives have also been discovered, like the Lewis Lawrence Transgender Archive. One of the most important legacies of Casa Susanna comes from the photographs taken there. These weren't just ordinary photos. They were intimate, personal snapshots that captured the lives of the people who spent time at Casa Susanna. These images were taken by people who were often excluded from mainstream photography. These photos are more than just pictures, they were a powerful form of self-expression.
I can imagine them being really beautiful in a way because they would paint a story of what oppression was happening, but also the type of freedom and joy they felt in that small private space.
Yeah, I've seen some of the photos and they're really beautiful. And it's just, they just look like a bunch of friends hanging out, having the best time and enjoying each other's company and free, and just, you can see that they're just happy to be exploring their gender expression and who they are. And yeah, it's really beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. I'll put some of the photos when we post this episode up. The photographs show people laughing, posing, and living their lives authentically. They're not just about capturing a moment, they're about creating a narrative of visibility for a community that had little of it. Many of these images were later traded within the community, shared like baseball cards, as some people put it, and they became a way to connect with others to feel seen and understood.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So let's take a closer look at the people behind Casa Susanna. At the heart of this space was Susanna Valenti. Valenti was a trans woman who played a key role in creating and nurturing the community at Casa Susanna. She was also a court translator. As a femme-presenting person, she became a model for others who are struggling with their gender identity, providing both support and guidance.
So that was Susanna of
Yes.
Casa Susanna.
That's why it's called Casa Susanna.
Yeah, I didn't realise that they were a trans lady.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I've got to that part.
I feel like that's a big part to it. Thanks.
Well, I did say Susanna and wife, so anyway.
She's a lesbian. Lesbians can be trans or non-trans. I love it how I said trans and non-trans as if trans the norm. Everyone else is just non-trans.
So Susanna's wife, Marie Tonell, was also an integral part of the Casa Susanna story. Tonell, who ran a wig shop in New York City, helped create the network of people who visited Casa Susanna. The house itself was a retreat from the outside world where guests could relax, dress how they pleased, and be themselves without fear of judgment. How cool was it that she owned a wig shop?
I know, that's so cool. Also, I wonder if that's how they met.
No idea.
Oh.
I didn't go into that much detail.
Tidbit. I love it how the things that you find interesting and the things that I find interesting is like, I'm like the love story.
And I'm like, yeah, she was a wig lady, wig shop lady.
She was a wig lady.
People from all walks of life came to Casa Susanna. There were people like Gloria, a millionaire from Michigan, Jessica, a Colombian heiress, and Felicity, an airline pilot and World War II veteran. Each of them brought their own unique experiences and struggles, but they all found a sense of community and belonging at Casa Susanna.
Also, I love the fact that you just said 3 boss ladies.
Yeah, right.
All that matters.
What I find interesting are some articles and resources say Casa Susanna was for cross-dressing men who were exclusively heterosexual, which would explain why their wives were there as well. But I think it was more like, they may have been masking their true identity or putting on a facade of what the everyday, like, American life,
I think you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt and understand there's a lot of context that, in essence, has been lost with us not living in that timeline and understanding the feelings of people who are from that timeline.
Yeah, and in a lot of articles and research I did find as well, they were referring to Valenti as he, and that was kind of really frustrating.
Oh, that feels yuck.
Yeah, so I didn't like that at all when they were doing that.
No.
Valenti had once dreamed of turning Casa Susanna into a hotel and living full-time as a woman. But when Tonell had a serious accident in 1967, Valenti had to go back to living as a man to cover the medical costs. She stopped writing a column in Transvestia and lost contact with Virginia Prince, who was one of the creators of Transvestia. And Casa Susanna was sold in 1972.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. So Transvestia was a magazine and it was launched and written by Virginia Prince in 1960. And at the time, it was a magazine by and for transvestites, and that's why when I said the trigger warning earlier,
fair.
and it was aimed to create a space for people interested in gender expression. And Susanna wrote a column called Susanna Says.
That's really cute.
Also, many of the photos were also featured in the magazine as well.
I hope they had advertising for the wigs.
Good question. I hope they did.
Surely they would have.
So in the early 1980s, Valenti and Tonell began living apart, and Valenti continued living openly as a woman until she passed away.
They lived apart?
Yeah.
Were they separated?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
Both Valenti and Tonell passed away in 1996. So these photos and the story of Casa Susanna show us that the trans community has always been here, finding ways to express themselves, support one another, and build community even in hard times. We fast forward to today. We're living in a time when trans rights are under increasing legal and political pressure, and visibility for the trans community is constantly at risk. That's why the story of Casa Susanna and its photographs is so important. These photographs are more than just historical records. They are proof that the trans community has always existed, even when society didn't recognize it. They show us that the trans people have always found ways to express themselves, connect with others, and support one another, even in the face of adversity.
What a beautiful story. I love that.
So to wrap up, Casa Susanna wasn't just a house. It was a sanctuary, a place of self-expression, and a reminder that trans people have always had the desire to live authentically, regardless of society's pressures. What happened at Casa Susanna was a small but significant part of the larger story of queer liberation. It helped lay the foundation for the communities we have today, and it reminds us that even in times of struggle, there is power in coming together and supporting one another.
Absolutely. Oh, that is gorgeous. Thank you so much for bringing that to the pod.
So this episode was recommended by a previous guest of our podcast, Wendy Cole. So she was telling me all about this place and what it was, and I never heard about it before. So I needed to go in a deep dive, and I spent a good few weeks trying to collate all the different things and what I wanted to keep in and what I wanted to keep out. And so the spark notes of what Casa Susanna is.
I just found out that there's no record of when or where Susanna died. So Susanna was Latin American, and she immigrated to the US in the mid-1940s, and Maria was Italian American. Yeah, both of their deaths were unrecordable in public archives.
Why is that?
I wonder if it's because of the affiliation with the queer community.
I'm not sure. 1996, though. Who knows?
I don't know.
Shall we wrap this episode up?
Yeah. It says, Susanna's last public presence was in 1979, and the absence of any further traces. Gosh, how haunting. But what a beautiful story of love.
Yeah.
For the community.
Love and acceptance and finding your own community in times when things are tough. And I think, it's kind of reminiscent of what's happening now around the world, especially in places like the US and the UK who have gone backwards, and how important community is and finding your own little sanctuary and safe haven in your own little Casa Susanna. If you want to learn more about Casa Susanna, I'm going to post a whole bunch of links. If you want to go down the deep dive like I did, you can also watch the documentary and there's a book as well that you can get your little eyes on and read. I don't know
What
where
if
I'm
you've
going
got
with.
big eyes?
Well, you get your big eyes if you want to. So that's been this episode, and I do hope that you enjoyed this little episode. And if you did, it would absolutely mean the world if you'd give us a quick rate, review, or subscribe on whatever you're listening to us on.
And give us 5 stars, because you love us.
It would be nice.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end and following along on this beautiful journey of Casa Susanna.
Yeah, thank you guys, and until next time, I hope that we have been
Perfectly queer.